This is Curious Brain Farts.
Hello and welcome to Curious Brain Farts.
Why, thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
This is the podcast where two ordinary peeps,
That'd be me and you.
yep, have a chat about things, what we is curious about.
With good England.
So pray tell, Paul, what is a curious brain fart?
I shall tell Louise and not sing. Curious Brain Fart. Curious Brain Fart
Yes.
is something that's curious, that we find curious. And a brain fart is really an idea about something that just needs to come out. So the term came up when in one of the businesses Lou and I were running, that you'd be in a call somewhere and then all of a sudden, I think it's like with me, like flapping my arms around because I had to get something out. It was a brain fart. I had to get it out before I lost it. So that's a brain fart. Now, we love it when our dear listeners join in, get involved, share ideas with us. So how can people send suggestions, Louise?
Well, Paul, if people have got something they want to say, they can simply email us on the worldwide interweb, curiousbrainfarts@gmail.com.
Well, I'm having a lovely time.
Good. Glad someone is.
Yes. Which is nice.
Which is lovely.
Now, today is A Day, which is great. And
What are you laughing at?
there's I can hear a dog frantically licking at a Kong.
So for those who are not dog owners, a Kong is a big... What is
Rubber. Big rubber shape. It sort of looks like a beehive.
It's a bulbous shape.
Is it not like a cartoon drawing of like a beehive? Is
Yeah,
what
it's
it
not.
is, kind of,
It's not dissimilar.
with a big hole in it at the bottom.
You can put things, and the dog Nigel has been annoying us because he wants to go out for a WALK. I'm not going to say the word,
Don't say the
everyone,
word.
for obvious reasons. And so I've put some peanut butter in his Kong, but now he's annoying us by loudly licking it in our general vicinity. So humble apologies if you can hear the dog. What can you do?
Not a lot. Not a lot. Well, actually, you could just turn it off. Listen to something else.
I was going to say turn the dog off. What are you trying to say? Good. So, listen.
Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes, something that we did a while ago on one of the episodes was start by sharing one thing that you love. We did this on one of the episodes.
Did we?
Yep. One thing you love about today. Let's be specific.
One thing I love about today is, well, I want two things.
We can have one.
Okay, I'll
Ignore that.
amalgamate the
Right,
things into
okay.
one statement. One thing I love about today
Yes.
is you coming to my house to record the podcast and eating the lovely sourdough that I made.
Oh, yeah, that sourdough was absolutely delicious, freshly baked. Very delicious.
Yum.
Yum, indeed.
What about you?
You see, you've took two.
It was one thing. It was
right.
a smash together.
Right.
Smash.
Smash.
So what one thing? And you can only have one.
I
You
love...
can't choose all the things and make a really
No,
long
not
statement.
all the things. I love the fact that you're now helping Nigel to lick his Kong by prizing it still with your left
It's
foot.
all a bit wrong, isn't it?
Love that. So that's great. Well done, Nige. So, guess we better stop wasting people's time.
It's not a waste. How rude.
Right. Now, getting the random theme generator to Lou's house did require some heavy goods vehicles. I mean, the logistics...
It's a bit disruptive, if I'm
It is
honest.
quite disruptive. There's a very dark shadow outside the front window.
And what with the technological advances the age, the random theme generator is surprisingly large. Given how small lots of other tech is. It's surprisingly massive.
Yeah. And it's great because it also comes with like solar panels. There are some hamsters in there as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Aren't they eating the wires and doing disruptive things?
Well, either they're going on their water bottles or...
Why is there water in with the electronics? You haven't thought this through, Paul.
it's working so far. It's not gone bang. So
Yet.
I'm going to just pop out the front door.
Go out to front.
I'm just going to pop out the front so that I can go and turn on the random theme generator. Bear with me a minute.
Okay.
That should be on now.
Oh, yeah. It's whirring to life.
Right, I say go for it. Hit the button.
Random theme generator. Random theme generator.
And so thusly, it has come to pass that the random theme generator has given us purpose. So let's just clarify, it hasn't given us purpose.
Do you know what? I felt better for a minute then.
It's given us the topic
Oh,
of purpose
I
to
felt
talk
so
about.
much better. Like, I finally found my purpose. It was in the random theme
Finally,
generator.
it has happened to me. Right in front of my face. In the random theme generator.
Take from that what you will.
Yeah, that conjures up an interesting visual.
Visage.
So purpose.
Yes.
What's your purpose? Porpoise. So, here we are. The reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. That's the first definition. The second one is a person's sense of resolve or determination. And thirdly, as a verb, to have one's intention or objective. So, he repurposed the whatever it
Random
was.
theme generator.
Yes, as a whatever.
A ground source heat
So
pump.
that's an amazing. Thank you, Paul, for filling in my whatevers with actually pertinent remarks. So the reason for which something is done or created, or that internal sense of purpose, resolve, determination. Those are the definitions.
And what I like about purpose, particularly one's purpose, as opposed to two's purpose. Nigel's back. Is that it's not static. So there can be some core traits. I'm just thinking about elements of mine, and there can be some core traits like the desire to, I think a big part of my purpose is to serve others and have a positive impact in the things I do. And that can manifest itself in a variety of different ways.
Yeah.
And it's not the only attribute. And so I think about, as I've grown up and got married and had children and run businesses and done all sorts of different things, the expression of that purpose is multifaceted, I would say.
Has the purpose changed for you?
That was just something I was thinking about.
What's the answer then?
Well, I was going to email it in, actually.
Just say it. Don't spray it.
Nigel.
Yeah, Nigel.
He's wagging his tail ferociously. He's a very happy boy. So, has it changed? I'm not so sure as it has, really. And that might be true for lots of other people. I guess one of the things that I see in the work we've done together and with coaching clients and so forth is when that isn't able to be expressed in a meaningful way. So when you're doing something or involved in something, you can feel like you've lost your sense of purpose. Actually, it might be that the thing that you're doing or whatever is not allowing you to express the purpose that is there.
Because, and there could be lots of reasons for that, and I think that if it's crucial for what we do to have meaning, and often people look for this in their work because it takes up a huge chunk of our time, for that to be purposeful, meaningful, at least in part, because if it doesn't speak to that, then we're actually doing a job, no matter how much money we're earning, it's not going to satisfy us because it doesn't have the purpose element to it. It's how I suppose it's linked to our identity as people and how we choose to show up in the world and how we, it's the filter through which we look at a lot of things. And so sometimes we have people coming to us not knowing what their purpose is, and that's a source of actual suffering for them because then they somehow can't make meaning of things without knowing what that is. It's my belief that they do know, and we support them to tune into it.
I agree, because like I was saying before, it might be that it's just gotten a bit lost, or you've not focused on it deliberately before or whatever, and the thing that you're currently doing isn't allowing you to express that. So, we could take this podcast because, before I say that, what do you think your purpose is?
I don't know that there is only one, but it's definitely I'm very similar to you. It's definitely to support people to thrive in whatever way. Currently, that is through the coaching work that I do, through the kind of change facilitation work that we do together. But when I look back on my whole career, just taking it through a career lens for now, that has always been there, but it's been much less vibrant in some phases than in others. And I remember specifically a time when I was working for a big consulting firm, and I was a chargeable asset in inverted commas, and I was working in a team, and so that element was still there because people were still present, and I sought out opportunities. But then when my son was born and I decided to change direction, I actually moved into learning and development within the same organisation, and it felt like I'd come home because...
You live there all the time.
Right. Well, I kind of did. It's not great from that point of view. But that was my expression, my way of articulating the much closer alignment with that purpose. Supporting people to thrive was much, much closer to the surface, and therefore I instantly loved it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really good at it. Not to blow my own trumpet.
Wow. Better than blowing your own wind.
I wonder what you were going to say then. Moving on.
Moving on. So if, for example, the podcast is one of the ways in which we are able to express our sense of purpose, because it's not about it's exciting. I think we're in 17 countries now, which is amazing.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing. And those things are great. And actually, it's the individual bits of feedback that we've had from people at different times. And we've only been doing this for 4 months.
Yeah, not long.
And it's interesting that the feedback that we've been getting from people, that has been the thing that has sort of reinforced the fact that what we're doing is fulfilling our sense of purpose. So we're not hanging on or waiting for these things to come through from people with bits of feedback. It's almost like another way of triangulating the fact that we are expressing our sense of purpose in what we're doing in this podcast.
Yes. Because then it's fully aligned, it's authentic, and we're not hung up on metrics. We said when we started this, if we have a positive impact on one person, then we're very happy with that. And if that person is me,
Yes.
or if that person is you,
Yep.
or Nigel the dog, then that's all good.
Mm-hmm. Other dogs are available.
Right. So it felt weird initially, the podcast, because it's a public forum and I wasn't used to that, and neither were you. And so we felt a bit, so, however, for me personally, it's felt easy in the sense that there is ease in doing it. It's not a process that I find taxing or draining, and that tells me that it gives me more than it takes away, and therefore it's connected to purpose.
Yeah. It is such a superpower, connecting into a sense of purpose. And if I think about it like at an organisational level, sometimes, just thinking back in my career, it's been very difficult to believe the thing that has been expressed as the sense of purpose for that organisation.
Yeah.
And therefore what has naturally occurred is that within the team that I've been part of, or business unit I've been running, or whatever, I've been able to find a way of developing a sense of purpose with others that is more meaningful, because purpose is so powerful. If we have this, if we are connected to a sense of purpose, also, interestingly, just something popped into my head, that it's greater than me. Purpose is greater than just me in how I experience it. And so, yeah, I think that's something that's useful, because not everybody...
The dog just did a big burp. Sorry if you heard that. It's well funny. Pardon you, Nigel.
Yeah, Nigel.
Rude.
Because it might be that not everybody's in a position where they are able to craft a sense of purpose or whatever, and even being able to abstract the thing that you're doing and connecting that in some way to a sense of purpose is worth doing, because it is this energy source. So I'm thinking of someone who might be an individual contributor who feels like they're doing a mundane job of some description, and it is possible to tune into that and find from that some sense of purpose that talks to you and what's important to you.
Yes, because without it, you're then going through the motions in some fundamental way, and it's just not satisfying. It doesn't feed us as people, and I was thinking purpose is highly individual. So ours cross over, but they're not the same, and they're differently expressed in terms of how we choose to work and what we do. Some of it lines up because we work together in some settings, and some of it's different. And that's maybe why purpose is so challenging for an organisation. And is it actually purpose, or is it our mission, which isn't the same? Because, and it's fine for an organisation to have a purpose. However, it needs to facilitate actively a process whereby the people who work for that organisation can build a bridge between what the organisation is saying and them as an individual. Because without it, it's a Venn diagram without any crossover. And that's just two shapes floating in space. And that's what your expression is. So you then had to facilitate that for yourself, because the organisation was possibly a bit lazy and just went, here you go. We've told everyone what the purpose is. Done. Tick. Well, it's not that simple. You have to actually engage with it.
So it's not something that's static, and it is very much a living thing, because writing it down isn't enough. So, changing tack completely, what's the purpose of Nigel's Kong?
It depends who you're asking.
Ask Nigel.
You're asking. I was going to say, if you're asking Nigel, that is a thing of pure enjoyment, because it's either got something tasty like peanut butter inside, but it's a fun toy to play with, and it rolled under the chair, and he was properly sad about it. And the delight in his physiology when I crawled on the floor and got it out from underneath the chair 10 minutes ago, he was bouncing up and down, literally. So
He knew what was coming.
He knew exactly what was coming. It was a source of pure delight. If you're asking me what the purpose is, then it's to keep him distracted, which is what I'm using it for now. It's to give him something to engage him when I go out, which is sometimes how I use it. And also for him to have a lovely time, because he's my dog and I love him and I want him to have a lovely time.
So it's interesting. It can be, in that context, purpose can be transactional. It doesn't need to be this massive, broad thing. You know, when looking at the difference between my sense of purpose for me as Paul versus the purpose of a dog toy. It can be transactional.
You can attach it to an object or a thing, yes. Attached to a person,
it's much bigger.
it becomes more complex. I was thinking about this, and I think that I got really much clearer about my purpose when I had to articulate what my value was. I used to work in a kind of a freelance consulting way. So I would, roll out my Seto skills, and people would pay me to do various jobs. I don't tend to work in that way anymore. But when I did start that journey of running my own thing, I couldn't then hitch my purpose wagon to someone else's. I had to know what my own was. And that's when, that whole start with why Simon Sinek thing, I did that and a number of other things. And it took me quite a long time to articulate it cleanly and clearly. And it's possible, I think, that people just maybe haven't. I can't talk for anyone but myself, actually. I hadn't created the space to think deeply about it before it was necessary.
Yeah. And it's a choice, it's also possible to not ever create the space.
Yeah.
So.
And what's the impact of not doing that? If you never articulate clearly your own purpose, doesn't matter if it's in a job or how you want to show up in the world or how you want to, it doesn't matter. But if you never do it, so what?
Because I think I wonder how many people do create the space to do that, because there are ways of expressing your purpose without having to write it down, because I think there's also something that's kind of ingrained in us. Not ingrained, that's the wrong word. It's something that lives within us. So if you're doing something that feels dead.
Yes.
And when you're doing something that makes you feel alive. And that doesn't have to be exciting or ecstatic alive. You're just feeling really great. You're in flow. You're doing something that's positive.
It's interesting because we were talking earlier about when we both said this, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, when we're coaching people, when we're working with individuals or groups, it doesn't actually feel like work to us.
No.
It's what it does feel like is a delight, a joy, a privilege, a pleasure.
And it's very nourishing. And
it's so maybe that's a sign that we're fully aligned with our sense of purpose, because it's not that it's effortless.
No.
Not at all. Focus and effort is required, but it's done with, there's nothing weighing that down. It's not, I contrast that with when I don't know, did a job that wasn't at all, and it feels like you're walking, when you're walking through claggy mud and it sticks to your walking boots and you're about 20 kilos heavier because you've got this stuff stuck on your boots. It feels like that for me, effort-wise. It's much more draining, and it might not be as many hours or as, it's not about any of that. It's about, I've got, you're not gliding above the surface of the earth, but you're able to tread very lightly when your purpose is
I wonder if
engaged.
It's about being more in flow, because if things are lining up more, then you're more likely to be able to hit a state of flow than if things aren't lining up for you.
Yes, I think that's right. And I think that anything that we do, that state is going to ebb and flow.
Yes.
We can't all be hyper connected to our purpose all the time. Someone's got to do the washing up.
Yeah.
Someone's got to wash the dirty pants. No, there might be people out there for whom that is their thing, right? And more power to you. Please really come round mine. But
And mine.
But for me, those things are more. There's more drudgery. There's more chore.
Yeah.
Now I love. I said earlier I bake bread. That's a choice I make. It takes time. It takes planning. it'd be a lot easier to buy a loaf of bread from the shop.
Tastes like crap in comparison, though.
It probably would cost the same amount of money.
And it would taste like crap in comparison.
Yeah. So I value that kind of thing. So
And there's a sense of satisfaction to it as well.
yeah, so it's another form of nourishment. This time it's physical nourishment. Yeah, I think those and this connection between value. I'm thinking about the connection between our values, things that we hold dear, and our purpose. So is our purpose an expression of the things that we believe, that we put out there into the world? So it's values with momentum somehow.
I was thinking about all the different things I'm involved with, and one of them is I'm a musician, so I'm in a couple of bands, and I was just thinking about, what's the purpose of that, of me doing those things, and it seems that there is, there's a few aspects to it. It is, it can be very effortful. There's lots of energy needed, because I also am the sound engineer for both of those. So playing drums as well as engineering is quite tricky. So there's lots of planning and effort involved with doing all those things. And the purpose is that, not dissimilar to the podcast in some respects, maybe for someone that will be of value and enjoyment to them. And also, I suppose it's very similar to the podcast, because also it's not always, and it is often of value and enjoyment to me. So I am getting to improve my skills musically. I am trying new things, different things, whatever it happens to be.
So purpose as context. So it's the reason why something exists. And put that in specific contexts, then it can and should change. But without knowing that, at least a little bit, at least, part of my purpose is to be a parent.
Yeah.
And, I know that sense of connection with people is very important. And so there are these meta themes that apply to in lots of different contexts. And without knowing that you could then extrapolate that and say, well, that's the reason I exist. That's why I am here, to take these gifts that I have within me, build them, foster them, offer them up. And that works both on me. That applies firstly to me and then more widely. And without knowing that, what's the goddamn point? So I think we must all know on some level.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'd be in this nihilistic, what's the point kind of place, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I think that's what I was trying to say earlier as well. That it can be articulated or expressed differently. So for us, we've decided to create the space and think about it and question it and look at it and so on. For others, it might be more of an intuitive, instinctive thing. That felt good. This didn't feel good.
More embodied. But so if we all trust that we know,
yes,
in whatever way that knowing is, then, in our head, in our heart, in our bodies, all three, whatever combination, we know if we're aligned to our purpose. Whether we can clearly, whether we've got a clear purpose elevator pitch or not, doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
We know when we're congruent and we know when we're not.
So it's great. we've all got this superpower in us.
Love that.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah, boy.
Have a bit more of that. Thank you very much.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get purposeful with our purpose superpower. Purposefully.
Bye.
Bye.
Pure Spring Thoughts.